Good morning. Welcome, everyone, especially visitors, to this online gathering of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Bowling Green. We are a welcoming congregation. Whoever you are, however you identify, wherever you come from, and whoever you love, you are welcome here. My name is Valerie Brown, and I will be the service associate today. Our Sunday services are different each week so that we can honor and learn from our wide array of traditions and beliefs. Today, our speaker is Tim McGaughey. He will be talking about Taoism, and I will tell you a little bit more about him in just a few minutes. Though we each walk our own path, here in this place and now at this time, we journey together as one community. For Unitarian Universalists, the flaming chalice is a symbol of the light of learning and the love of our community. This morning, our chalice will be lit by Jeffrey Strong. Jeffrey is one of our newer and very active members. As our congregation's chalice is lit, you're welcome to join in singing hymn number 362, Rise Up, O Flame. This morning, Jeffrey Strong will be giving our opening reading.
This is a selection from a poem entitled The Unity of One and Many by Shu Dao, one of the founders of Zen Buddhism in the 7th century CE. Within light, there is darkness, but do not try to understand that darkness. Within darkness, there is light, but do not look for that light. Light and darkness are a pair, like the foot before and the foot behind in walking. Each thing has its own intrinsic value and is related to everything else in function and position. Ordinary life fits the absolute as a box and its lid. The absolute works together with the relative, like two arrows meeting in midair.
Please join together in singing hymn number 318, We Would Be One.
Oh
We will now take a few moments for meditation, reflection, or prayer. The singing bowl will lead us into silence. After the silence, we will sing Spirit of Life. You're welcome to sing along. As mentioned earlier, Unitarian Universalists have a wide array of beliefs, and the speakers at our Sunday services come from many traditions. Tim McGaughey will share with us today his thoughts. The title of his talk is The Way to Wisdom, Finding Balance Through the Tao. Tim McGaughey grew up in Louisville. He graduated from WKU, got his PhD in psychology, and did a postdoctoral at St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Washington, D.C. Later, he relocated to the New Haven, Connecticut area and worked in business management. He moved to Denver, Colorado, where he met his husband, our Jeffrey Strong. They retired to the Bowling Green area in 2019. Tim stays busy by letting his dogs in and out of the house at least 739 times a day.
I want to share with you today my spiritual journey. I don't know if the writings I shall present contain ultimate knowledge, but I know they contain beauty and truth, and perhaps that is all I need to know. For you, I hope that you may find at the least thoughts that are interesting, and at most a doorway into finding balance into your life. Taoism is a major religion in the world, and it means the study of the way. Now, while there is a religious component to it, Taoism is also an ancient philosophy as well as an influence on medicine, health, martial arts, and divination. It is in the philosophical pursuits where my interests lie. To start this journey into Taoism, let's start, as any good journey does, at the beginnings of mine. A few years ago, I had to have a medical procedure done. Now, I had a similar procedure done some years before, and it had been a tiring, enervating recuperation. I did not want to go through that again. So, as I faced this procedure again, I began wishing not for religion, but a way to bank energy, much like a patient would want to bank blood for surgery. I then recalled that decades beforehand I had participated in a workshop that taught a Qigong that would help me save up energy. Exactly what I wanted. Qigong is a Taoist term for energy exercise, such as Tai Chi. I had not kept up with the exercise called the swimming dragon because, like so many students, I had not followed the teacher's instructions. This time I would. So I started 30 days before the procedure, going at it 3 times a day for 20 minutes each. By the time I was to go through the medical procedure, I found I had energy to burn. I felt like at the age of 69, I was wonderfully rested and had so much energy. That led me to the foundations of Taoist philosophy, especially the writings of Lao Tzu in his book, The Tao Te Ching. Many years ago, when I first read the Tao Te Ching, which means more or less the book of the way, my reaction was to laugh. I thought the paradoxes and the compression of thought made it incomprehensible. Now, on a second reading, again years ago, it seemed to make no more sense than the first time I read it, so I laughed at it without comprehending anything, and I put it away. Now, after pulling it out last year, I laughed again, but this time at myself. I began to recognize the wisdom within the book, and as one translator, Lin Yutang, put it, I had a feeling that this sort of teaching is very much needed today. Lao Tzu continually refers to the masculine and the feminine in the Tao Te Ching. In Chinese culture, these two energies are recognized as yin and yang. These two make up the best known symbols from Taoism, which you can see behind me. The image shows a circle with 2 teardrop-shaped halves. One half is white, the other black. Each teardrop contains within it a smaller circle of the opposite color. The white is yang and the black is yang, or is yin. These halves represent the primordial feminine and masculine energies of the Tao. These two energies interplay to give birth to the manifest world of 10,000 things. The world we gather and make sense of through our senses and through our minds. Yin does not refer specifically to women, nor yang to men, but rather to traits and energies we often associate with each gender, and we find in both men and women. Yin and yang represent a whole assortment of dichotomies, not only black and white, but dark and light, passive, active, cold, warm, old, young, and so many other things. Now, you're probably all well acquainted with this yin-yang symbol, as it is often used by non-Taoists to represent the concept of opposites existing in harmony. What you may not understand is that the two halves are bound together and contained by the Tao. You'll see the outline surrounding the circle. If you've seen any Star Wars movies, May the Force be with you, would be understood by any homegrown Taoist as the Tao wrapped up in a George Lucas cloak. The Tao begat yin and yang. It contains yin and yang. Thus, yin and yang are the expression of the Tao. The Tao is the flow of the universe. It is the essence or the pattern behind the natural world that keeps the universe balanced and ordered. Lao Tzu wrote, "The Tao is both named and nameless. As nameless, it is the origin of all things. As named, it is the mother of 10,000 things. Ever desireless, one can see the mystery. Ever desiring, one sees only the manifestations. And the mystery itself is in the doorway to all understanding." Often, what is not spoken about is that yin and yang can be found in different types of thinking or consciousness. Modern neuroscience has caught up with this ancient theory by demonstrating that our brains have more than one way of thinking. One way, which we find in the default mode network, so named because it is the default mode of thinking in the brain, is very much involved with conceptualizing things, whether they be objects or actions or thoughts. In yang thinking, we're always differentiating one thing from another, projecting them into the past or the future, mentally modifying them to suit our needs. Our educational systems are built on teaching and learning fine discriminations. We want our physicians, our engineers, our scientists to do just that. This method is dominant in the West. This is the world of 10,000 things. This is the way of yang. When we turn these neural pathways off, often by meditation and mindfulness, prayer, and following our intuitions, we become more receptive and accepting of what is happening around us. We experience more openness, and we are more approachable. Paradoxically, as we feel more detached, we are more able to feel and see similarities between ourselves and others outside of ourselves. Our thinking becomes more yin. Tell me, what makes a person want to save a drowning dog even though it might put their own life in jeopardy? Does the person saving the dog think, "Stupid dog, why'd you fall in the water?" That's a yan way. Or does the person just know that they and the dog want life? That is the yin way. Because the yan way of thinking is so common in the world of 10,000 things, Lao Tzu does not emphasize yang consciousness as much in the Tao Te Ching. When he does write about yang, it's generally without yin, and that, more often than not, is a fatal way. I think he's bringing balance to us much as a gardener straightens a bent sapling. By bending the tree opposite to its slant, it will grow straight and strong. He is helping us to see beyond that yang world of 10,000 things so that we might step into the world of yin. Through that yin doorway, we will be able to glimpse the mysteries and harmonies of the Tao. Yet to live a balanced life, both yin and yang are needed and cannot be avoided. Lao Tzu were here and we were to ask him which is more valuable, yin or yang, he would just laugh. Then he might ask us which is more valuable to keep an item safe, the box that the item lays in or the lid that contains it in the box. Then he'd just laugh again. How can we use this advice to make our lives more balanced? The next time you feel annoyed or angry with someone, stop. Breathe deeply. Don't focus on being angry or annoyed. Just let whatever feelings you have come and go without naming them, like you would with waves at the beach. As you do, you will find more serenity, more equanimity, more balance. As yin and yang balance, your feelings will become clearer to you, but their intensity will lessen. You will feel more balance. The chapter that helped me first to understand what Lao Tzu was advising starts with the lines, when everyone knows beauty is beauty, that is bad. When everyone knows good is good, that is not good. So being and non-being produce each other. As a young man, like a lot of teenagers, I was very knowledgeable and snobbish about my musical taste. In high school, you were either a Beatles fan or one for the Rolling Stones. I was for the Beatles. I'd seen them on Ed Sullivan. I went to a concert to see them in Indianapolis in 1964. I could tell you everything about them. I could discuss every nuance of their melodies, their instrumentation, or why they selected songs in a particular order on an album. Now, as I grew into my 20s and then into my 30s, my taste in music grew and broadened, and I listened to a wider variety of music. But my snobbishness was still there, although I cloaked it in fancier ways of discriminating good music from bad. Good music was largely music I liked, and bad music was, as you might guess, music I didn't like. I resisted recognizing what I was doing until I met my former father-in-law. You see, Hank Will was an accomplished musician and teacher. He was Richard's first piano teacher, and he accompanied Richard and Karen to California, where they became the Carpenters. Back in Connecticut, he had his own small band and was a well-known arranger. He helped Jimmy Stern win oodles of Grammys. Did I mention that his band was a polka band, or that Jimmy Stern had won 18 Grammys for polka music, most of which were for music that Hank had arranged? Stern probably would have won more Grammys with Hank's arrangements, but the Music Academy abolished the polka category. I think this was due to Stern's having shut everybody else out of the category year after year. Let's just say that after meeting Hank, my musical horizons broadened. When I first began to understand Lao Tzu's work, I realized how much I had restricted myself from hearing other types of music because they weren't good. Not because they were poorly played, but because I didn't like the type of music they were. While I never became a big polka fan, I began to appreciate the skill and complexity I was to learn could be found in all types of music. I stopped listening for goodness and started listening to the music. Because I had declared certain music as good or beautiful, I started thinking of other music as bad or ugly. When I stopped doing that, I felt not only less judgmental about music, but more open to a whole range of creative activities. Now, we find that in our young consciousness, all things are not the same. A simple lullaby is not the same as a Mozart concerto, nor the Taj Mahal the same as a teepee. But each have their worth. That is the yin consciousness. Does the mockingbird think its songs are better than the goldfinches, the donkey finer looking than the thoroughbred, the bee more industrious than the ant? I suspect none of these creatures thinks of the dualities implicit in these comparisons. But how many dualities do you find yourself enmeshed in? If I were smarter, I would be richer. If I were richer, I would be happier. If I were happier, I would be smarter about my life. Lao Tzu tells us that we should cease these judgments, and we would then find serenity. Being smarter is because someone else is dumber. Being richer is because someone else is poorer. Happier because someone else is sadder. Having success is always regarding have more of some characteristic than others. When we cease thinking and acting toward ourselves or others in these ways, then, as Lao Tzu wrote, success will not leave us. Lao Tzu writes in another chapter in what I think is his most heartfelt and beautiful lines. I have 3 treasures that I keep and hold. The first is compassion. The second is frugality. The third is daring not to be first in the world. Whoever has compassion can be brave. Whoever has frugality can be generous. Whoever dares not to be first in the world can become the leader of the world. But to be brave without compassion, generous without frugality, prominent without humility, this is fatal. Whoever shows compassion in battle will conquer. Whoever shows compassion in defense will stand firm. Heaven helps and protects those with compassion. Why does Lao Tzu write that compassion is mentioned first? And why does heaven help and protect those that are compassionate? Many translations have used instead the words mercy, good-heartedness, love, kindness, mercy, and charity. All of these words imply an acceptance of the other without an evaluation of their worth. Courage stems not from a heartless and callous attitude, but an ability to empathize and accept others with an open heart. Lao Tzu tells us that we cannot be brave without compassion, for it is a sure means to death. To be able to suffer with others, or even ourselves, and to show kindness and mercy, whether to humans or not, is to recognize that we all have value. I think compassion is listed first and is considered most important because more than any other qualities, compassion allows us to feel our common relationship with each other. This is to acknowledge that we are all manifestations of the Tao. The second treasure has always befuddled me a bit. Seldom do we think of frugality as a spiritual value. Often this term is translated as economy, moderation, thrift, simplicity. Lao Tzu tells us that being satisfied with less rather than more brings about great generosity. I don't think that's only because by being frugal we will have more items to share in generosity. Frugality lessens the Yang version of having more as being more worthwhile. By being satisfied with what we have, by being less attached to it, we can become generous with material items as well as our spirit. Buddhism tells us that attachment is the source of all suffering. The more we cling to things, and the more we feel we need, the less we are concerned with the welfare of others. For Lao Tzu, this too is fatal. The third treasure necessary for a successful life is daring not to put yourself ahead of others. This is humility. So often we think of leadership as showing qualities of strength and power, triumph, along with the Yang qualities of arrogance, loftiness, and self-importance. We certainly see that in our political situations these days. But Lao Tzu shows that true leadership is humble. We are all instruments of the Tao, and the qualities that are needed in any situation can come from any source. It is wise to be humble so that we can recognize wisdom wherever and whenever it comes. Those that stockpile more and more goods and are arrogant in its accumulation are not in harmony with the Tao. These individuals tend to contribute to dissension. Lao Tzu reminds us that these people who boldly go forth and without deference will die and will lead others to their deaths as well. These are not people to emulate. I would like to close with one last verse because it asks us to be most aware of the cycles of the Tao. I think it can be most instructive when we are deepest in despair, because life is caught in the eternal cycle of no thing to something to no thing. We realize that life comes and at some point ceases. It is a process that often takes us a lifetime to learn, if we do at all. We see this immutable cycle as having a beginning and end, but knowing the Tao, we know that is an illusion. Endings may feel like a reason to mourn, such as the end of a project, a closing of a phase in our life, like retirement, the termination of a relationship, or even death itself. Lao Tzu asks us to see that after things flourish, they return to the source, to what is and what is to be. Inner peace comes with recognizing that by reducing our attachment, we can become impartial to the cycles of the Tao and even find peace in them. Let me close with this verse. Empty your mind of all thoughts. Let your heart be at peace. Watch the turmoil of beings, but contemplate their return. Each separate being in the universe returns to the common source. Returning to the source is serenity. If you don't realize the source, you stumble in confusion and sorrow. When you realize where you come from, you naturally become tolerant, disinterested, amused, kind-hearted as a grandmother, dignified as a king. You can deal with whatever life brings you. And when death comes, you are ready. Namaste.
Our next hymn is number 38, Morning Has Broken.
Blackbird has spoken.
this place and the work we do is supported by the voluntary generosity of all who contribute. The offering is a sacrament of the free church. During the offertory, I always think about a line from one of our own hymns, Love Will Guide Us. And the line is, love will guide us from greed to giving. The information for your support is on the screen. Thank you for your gifts. May we use them wisely in the service of our beloved community. Jeff Strong will read the closing words.
Fame or integrity, which is more important? Money or happiness, which is more valuable? Success or failure, which is more destructive? If you look to others for fulfillment, you will never truly be fulfilled. If your happiness depends on money, you will never be happy with yourself. Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you.
If you have joys or concerns to share, please place them in the chat box, or later at the coffee hour, they can be expressed. As our gathering ends, we will extinguish the flame in our chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts wherever we go. Go in service, go in peace, go in love.